Today, shocking. I can't believe what one of our major banks has just done. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to the latest post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. And just before I start, a quick reminder that at 8 p.m. Sydney time tonight, I'll be joined on DFA Live by Damien Klassen from Nucleus Wealth. We're going to be discussing the financial markets and specifically the question of whether you should invest locally or internationally in the current environment. So join us and ask a question live via the chat. Now back to my rant, because yesterday I received an email from one of my banks. The email essentially said that they were going to stop sending me paper statements, and that if I wanted to continue paper statements, I needed to click a link. And when I did click a link, it took me through to another page. And on that page, it then started asking me for all sorts of personal information, including my access details. Now, of course, I didn't progress with that, but I phoned them up and then said, "Did you send the email?" And the lady in the call centre, who was actually very pleasant, said, "Yes, we sent the email. It's part of a campaign to switch people online." And then I said, "Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So can you please make sure that my statements are sent in paper format? I need that because of the audit that I have carried on here." And she said, "No, I can't do that. You need to complete the form." I then said, "Well, okay, can I speak to your supervisor?" So I had a bit of a wait, went through to the supervisor, who basically just told me the same. "Sorry, we can't do anything about it. You need to fill in the form if you want paper statements." And remember, I was required to click through and start entering my personal information. So I didn't leave it at that. I escalated it to the complaints department, and I spoke to a nice guy called Paul there, who frankly was horrified. He said, "Well, I wouldn't have clicked through on the link, and I don't think we send those sorts of emails." Okay, I said, "Well, I'm making an official complaint because I think that you should not be sending this type of email, and you should not be asking people to click through and complete personal information." And let me explain why I took that position. Because the ACCC reported that Australians last year reported 167,797 scams to the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, controlled ScamWatch. That was back in 2019. That's a 34% increase over the year prior, and the financial impact in 2019 to Australians was just over $634 million. Now that's an average loss of around $7,224. And they published a review of those scams. The greatest losses in 2019 by type of scams was 132 million Aussie dollars to business email compromises, $126 million to investment scams, and $83 million lost to dating and romance scams. In 2019, phishing was the most common method of scamming, with 25,168 reports. 513 of those reported results in a financial loss, valued at around $1.5 million. Now, identity theft came in third, with 11,373 reports, and 562 of those resulted in a loss of around $4.3 million. And there were 9,019 remote access scams, with 682 of those costing Australians about $4.8 million. And hacking as a scam type was reported 8,321 times, with 509 of those resulting in a loss of about $5.1 million. And by the way, also in 2019, reported losses for cryptocurrency scams exceeded $21.6 million, from 1,810 reports. Cloud mining farms became a common adaptation of this type of scam. Most were Ponzi schemes with no real cryptocurrency involved, the report explained. And ScamWatch said that an international Ponzi cryptocurrency scam called USI Tech hit Australians last year. It received over 200 reports from USI Tech, with losses of 3.3 million Aussie dollars, mostly via Bitcoin. And the two top payment methods for scams in 2019 were bank transfers at $70 million and Bitcoin at $19 million. The highest overall loss was experienced by those aged 55 to 64, and the age bracket reporting the most scams were aged 65 and over, followed by those aged 25 to 34, and 18 to 24-year-olds comprised only 4% of total losses, but people aged 55 to 64 lost nearly 30 million Aussie dollars. And by the way, men were most fooled by investment scams and women by dating and romance scams. Phone remains the main avenue for scamming with 69,522 reports, followed by email with 40,277 reports, then text messages at 27,894, and then the internet for 11,776 reports. And Aussies lost about 30.6 million via phone. And despite only being responsible for 70% of overall scams, the internet saw victims lose $31.6 million. Unfortunately, financial losses to scams are grossly understated, ACCC Chair Delia Rickard said. Scammers have moved to unexpected platforms to target victims. For example, in 2019, we saw dating and romance scammers targeting unsuspected victims through gaming apps such as Words with Friends, and investment scammers targeting Facebook and Instagram users with get-rich-quick cryptocurrency investment scams. Losers to text message scams increased by 40% in 2019 at just under 97,000 Aussie dollars, despite there being only 9% of reports. The report showed many of those were phishing scams, impersonating banks, MyGov, Australia Post and JB Hi-Fi. Scam received through social media also increased in 2019. Social networking contacts increased by 20% and mobile app contacts increased by 29%. And in 2019, businesses reported 5,904 scams to ScamWatch, with losses of over 5.3 million Aussie dollars. False billing scams caused the highest losses at $2.7 million. The most financially damaging scams involve invoices between businesses, suppliers, or individuals being intercepted and amended with fraudulent banking details. And the report also showed that businesses were most targeted by scammers impersonating senior managers, staff, and suppliers. Now, looking back, the report showed that Australians reported losing around $2.5 billion to scams between 2009 and 2019. In fact, in 2009, losses were totaling $69.9 billion. Unsurprisingly, advances in technology over the past decade have contributed to the proliferation of scams affecting Australians. While most scams remain fundamentally the same as in 2009, many have adapted over time to use social media, new payments methods, and online services to source new victims or to legitimize their stories, the report adds. And new scams have also emerged, such as business email compromise and cryptocurrency investment scams. These are some of the most financially damaging scams for Australia. And they noted that Australia's leading four banks, ANZ, Commonwealth Bank, National Australia Bank and Westpac, were compromised for the first time. And they received 24,000 reports of stolen personal information this year alone, an increase of 55% compared with the same time last year. And Australians reported losing more than $22 million to scammers who also stole their personal information. And people aged 25 to 34 reported losing personal information more than any other group. Scammers are targeting personal information more than ever, which has contributed to an increase in financial losses. Overall scams, and they also went on to say during the COVID-19 pandemic, with more people working and socialising online, we have unfortunately seen a sharp increase in scammers seeking personal information. Personal information such as bank and superannuation details or passwords are extremely valuable, and scammers will try to steal them for their own financial gain. Our increased use of technology has created more opportunities for them to do so. Scammers will also try and steal a range of other documents or the numbers associated with them, including passports, driving license, credit cards, tax statements, utility bills, or Medicare cards, so they can impersonate you, Ms. Ricard said. Phishing scams, the most common form of scam, are up by 44% compared with the same time last year. Scammers pretend to be from government departments and businesses like the ATO, MyGov, Telstra, or the NBN to gain bank account details and other information about a person that can be used to impersonate them. Once a scammer has that information, they can then use it to access individuals' bank accounts or superannuation, take out loans under their names, and impersonate them on social media to try to get money from family and friends. Scam victims who've lost personal information are vulnerable to further scams, fraud, or identity theft. If you do have your identity stolen, it can take years to recover, and people can end up losing more than money. Not only time in trying to undo the damage done financially, but it can also impact greatly on your mental health. So never give your personal or financial information to anyone you don't know or trust via email, text, social media, or over the phone, Ms. Ricard said. And she offered 5 tips to protect your personal information. I hope the banks are listening. First, don't be pressurized into giving away any personal information by someone who's contacted you, no matter who they say they are. Second, this is the important one, don't click on links in unexpected emails or messages, even if it appears to have come from a legitimate source. Third, use strong passwords for your accounts and internet network, and never share them with others. Install antivirus software on your devices and keep it up to date, and limit what personal information you share about yourself online, including on social media. So, my question to that bank, I won't name it at the moment, is what were you thinking when you sent this message out via email with a link through, to click through, to then ask for more information to be able to deal with a statement question? I honestly can't understand why you would do that. In fact, if you were going to contact somebody and ask them about statement preferences, surely you would do it within the secure environment of internet banking, not just as a basic email. So this is a crass example of one of our major banks going dead against what the ACCC are recommending. And what I would say to anybody watching is be really, really cautious with links and click-throughs if you don't know where they've come from. And any that are asking for personal information, and specifically, of course, banking information or other identifiable information like account numbers, you should completely ignore. It is just not safe. And as the ACCC highlights, there is a significant risk of scams via phishing, identity theft. So you have been warned. I'll update you again. I've lodged a formal complaint with this large organisation, and depending on their response, I may well come back and tell you a part 2 down the track. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.